Okay, so coming up on today's edition of Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about, our guest is Robyn Crane.
Wow. And how many times have people told us they love Robyn Crane?
I know. They're like, I'm a big Robyn Crane fan. I'm like, I gotta find out who this person is.
Oh,
so
that's good.
Rave reviews all the time. So today we're going to talk about getting more women into the financial services industry and why that's so important.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
There's so much to unpack here in this discussion, so let's jump right in and introduce our speaker.
Robyn Crane is a highly recognized business growth expert and speaker/trainer for female financial professionals committed to making a huge impact. So many have told us they are huge Robyn Crane fans and are jumping right in there with them. Robyn, let's give you the floor and let you introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you. So I didn't, think about my own intro, but basically I was a financial advisor for 10 years, and really it was just a very tough struggle for me. Going in, I was excited about it because I really wanted to help a lot of people. I wanted to make a big impact and kind of drank the Kool-Aid, like, oh, this is going to be easy. You just follow the system. All you got to do is, you're going to call people, you're going to set appointments. We have a system for everything. And when you do that, you will have success and you can make six figures and you can do it in the first year. And so there are all these promises, and got all excited, and then started the process of talking to friends and family, making my list of 100. And I actually was a singer-songwriter before I became a financial advisor. So you can imagine me coming to like, okay, now I got to call my cousin. I got to call my aunt and uncle. And I'm like, I was a singer-songwriter yesterday. I was writing cynical love songs, and I'm supposed to now be a financial advisor. And so the script they gave me was, okay, you're going to tell your friends and family your why, like, why did you decide to do this? And then you're just going to say like, let me just practice my presentation. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, so I call, this person, that person, whatever. And one of the people that I called in the very first probably week or two was my cousin, Tracy. And so I asked her, I didn't even remember by the time we met, I think it was 2 weeks later, that I said practice. But I go to her house, and it happened to be one of these days or one of these meetings where I had to bring my supervisor. So my supervisor's there, I'm there, she's there, her husband's there. And we're like sitting across the table, like we're about to, go head to head or something. And I'm following the system, and I'm like, okay, well, first step one is let me tell you about my company. And so I start talking about the company, and then I start talking about me and my why. And I got into this industry because I really wanted to help people, cynical love songs weren't doing it. So I really am excited to help people make a difference in their lives. And then step 3, I'm going to educate them. And we used to have a piece of paper that was like upside down for me, like this little graph. Yep. And for them, they could see, across the table, because, you're going to be across the table.
Yep.
And so you slide that across the table, you show them this graph, and you're basically scaring them into, if you don't start saving, you're screwed. I know I can say screwed because you said shit. So we're good. And then it's like, next step is now that we educate them, then we fact find. And so I'm asking my cousin, well, how much money do you have in your 401k? And how much money did you have in your 529 plans? And how much money do you have here? How much money in your college fund? All these things. And then we get to goals. And then by the end of it, it's like, okay, so the next step is to take that 401k and roll it into the capital appreciation fund. And my cousin looked at me and she goes, "Are you serious?" I'm like, yes. And she's like, "I thought this was practice." And that was the beginning of not a great relationship for me and my cousin. And that's kind of like my memory of starting in the industry. And then it was, several years struggling, trying to make money and feeling like an imposter because of it. So like I could have taken a few different stories, but that is kind of on my mind because so much of what I help these women with is like having a system that they're aligned with, having, helping female financial advisors have a system where it's like, they don't feel like they're being pushy. They don't have to feel weird to talk to their friends and family about it. And if they can help them, great. If there's a match, great. If there's not, it's not weird. But for my cousin and I, it was weird for 2 years because I had this pushy, weird script that as a woman, I wasn't aligned with. I did it because they told me, you do this, you'll make money. You do this, you'll make money. In the first 3 years of my business, I basically made, $2,000 a month and living in San Francisco area, going further and further in debt, so I just didn't feel like working hard in this industry as a woman, the way they tell me to do, equates to success.
That's a great story. And one I've actually heard many versions of over and over because it just felt icky, right? It felt icky. And think about it. You're just sat down and asked all these very personal questions about money. I don't know if you ever spoke to her about money before, even had a conversation about money, right?
Why would I? Like, it's taboo. You don't talk to your cousin. How much you guys make? And then I'm asking, her successful husband, who is a lawyer at, I won't say it now just in case, but like at a very well-known retail company, and I'm asking how much money, and like some of the things they answer, I don't think they answered that question because I sure don't know or remember, but it was so invasive, and my background and my credibility was zero, negative actually, because they knew like I was living off of couches, weeks before, like couch surfing just to go sing my cynical love songs, at a coffee shop or something. So they knew I wasn't loaded. And so you're so exposed going to friends and family like that when you first start. And to me, it's such a joke, and I'm not saying you can't go to friends and family, but the approach is just wrong. And it's just a joke to like assume that your family who love you are going to just want to hand money over to you just because they love you. When they know that your background, they know that they remember at 2 years old when you peed on their shoe, they changed your diaper, your aunt and uncle or whatever. And they're like, no, I'm not giving you my millions. I'm just not. And I love you anyway. Pat.
Yeah, I get it. And I've been in those classrooms where I've created content, as an education consultant in the industry that taught those processes. And it was right there and then where I thought, who would buy this way? I would never buy anything this way. And it felt icky to me, but I wasn't creating the process. I was creating the content and the education that they used to teach the process. It must have worked for somebody, right? Back in the day.
And it does. And it did. And that's the thing is like, eventually it works to some degree. The hilarious thing is like in my office, I was at the top of the charts. And I was going further in debt, right? So like, did I get, I got clients, I was making $2,000 a month. So did it work? Yeah, obviously I closed clients, and I closed a decent amount of clients, but what started to happen is because I worked within my network and I was 29 years old, I started with my best friend, outside of family, my best friend, who's also 29 years old, and she was a teacher and she was a climber. And so I actually got her and her friends to start working with me, but they didn't have much money. So even though I was able to use that crappy system and get clients, because when they need it and they want it, it actually closes the clients, and it has some scare tactics involved. So that will get people, there's some gap involved, but in the system, I learned you don't even ask them what their concerns are, what their challenges are, what their frustrations are, which is so weird to me now that I'm like teach sales in a way that's not salesy. But because of people need these services, eventually it'll work. It's just the women who have been in the industry for a decade and they come to me, they've made money. They got to 6 figures, and maybe it took 7 years, maybe it took 3 years, maybe it took 20 years. It's definitely not a straight line. And there are women who come to me who maybe they're making $2 million a year. And it's like, how'd you get there? Well, let me hear about your background. And it's this woman who was an executive, a CEO in New York, and she had a whole career there. And then at 50 years old, she decided to go work for her advisor's firm. And he's this reputable advisor. Yeah. And what she did is like talk to all her friends who all have multiple millions. And she's like, here, it's the handoff. And like, It's not like she didn't do a lot of work and wasn't a hard worker, but she earned her keep before. And that credibility, not a singer-songwriter, that credibility got her to $2 million a year very, very quickly. And I was like, how did he do that? But it's not always fulfillment. It's not always the business you want. And still most women are playing second fiddle to their business partners who are men. And I hear this every single day. False promise. Oh, he told me this, or I was going to, even with women, I was going to inherit this book from this other woman. And then she decided she's not going to retire. And now, this other woman decided she's going to retire. This guy was going to hand over the book, but now he's giving it to his nephew. It's like, all these false promises. And so a lot of women do get successful if they're just willing to work hard for long enough, because the recurring revenue model is good.
Yeah.
I want it, baby. I want the recurring revenue model. Now that I'm not a financial advisor, I miss it. I'm looking for recurring revenue opportunities, because it stinks to have to go make 7 figures every January, and start over again every year. So it's nice that they have recurring revenue, but I think that's why the model works. And that's why women will survive if they're tough enough, if they man up enough. And I'm actually saying man up enough on purpose, because I think that's the role that the successful women in this industry have been forced to play.
Mm-hmm.
And the women that work with me, they don't. They don't have to man up. They can woman up. They can be aligned with their values. They can do things their way. They can have the fulfillment. They can go. One of my clients, Melissa Myers, she's at LPL, and she launched a book. She became a #1 bestseller last year. She took 40% off for the whole year. She looked at her time, and she, over vacation days and all this stuff, it was 40% less time. And she made an additional $70,000 last year.
Wow.
And she's like, this is the life. And she paid off her mortgage like crazy.
That sounds awesome.
And before she was bored, and she was making 6 figures and unfulfilled, doing it kind of the man's way, So it's not that it doesn't work. It's just, I think it results in burnout. It results in women not feeling aligned with who they are. It results in a very long chase. It results in putting yourself in positions. I don't mind you being uncomfortable. I actually think that's going to get you what you want, but out of alignment. You're uncomfortable because you don't feel like it's right to push people, or you don't feel like it's right to do it this way and just ask them about the money without asking about their family or asking about what's important to them or whatever. So yeah, don't get me started. I'll go crazy right here. This will be a 20-hour podcast.
Well, I'm all about it, because it's exactly what I've seen in the industry. And what it did was, all the data will say that women are overlooked and underserved by the industry. And the biggest thing is they don't trust. They don't trust anybody coming at them, and so they don't even want to talk to you or talk about it. And I've met plenty of women who were in the industry, had a great heart, really wanted to do well, but because they were forced into that process with a huge, objective to meet, using that process only, they couldn't do it. They couldn't, like you said, they didn't feel aligned with who they were. They felt like they were pushing product all the time. They had to meet these outrageous goals, and they couldn't dial for dollars, is what they felt like they were doing. So at what point did you make that shift and say, I'm not doing this process anymore, and I'm making a change to make it my own?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I was just over 2 years in the business, and I started working with this coach, and I started working with him. And I wish it was a woman, honestly, because I'd like that to be a better story, but it's not. He is very feminine. No, I'm just kidding. But, so I was working with this guy, and he actually said, I know this financial advisor, and he's doing a wealth workshop, and he's really great. It's outside the box. Like go see his talk. So I'm like, oh, drink the Kool-Aid. Like, I want to grow my business. I'm sick of, making only $2,000 a month. And I knew I had to do something differently. And I knew I couldn't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And this guy, his name's Jeff, he showed me like this, it gave me some hope that there was a different way to actually approach this. And I didn't have to just go through this, fact-finding type of sales process. And I was really attracted to that, actually. To learn how to get really clear on what people wanted, what was holding them back, and how to see if I can help serve them to help them get the result, as opposed to just sell them something. But that was kind of the impetus to work with him. And then I was open to learning these things. And so I go to this seminar, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm like, it was small, maybe like 25 people in one of these big offices type of thing. They set up these metal chairs. And so I'm on this fold up metal chair near the front, and I'm like at the edge of my seat, like all excited. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I'll learn so much. I can bring more value to my clients. It's going to be awesome. And obviously I wasn't doing that. That would have been weird, but I was excited, and I was at the edge of my seat. And this guy comes out, and he starts talking, and he's a financial advisor, but not a traditional financial advisor. And within the first minute, he says, traditional financial advisors are just trying to sell you products and make money off of you. Mm-hmm, most of them are broke, and most of them don't even know how to make money. Mm-hmm. And all my excitement just dissipated. And I got like in just so like in my head about this, and I couldn't even listen to anything else. And I was just thinking about my cousins, not that cousin that didn't work with me. She didn't work with me. I ended up doing an annuity with my mom's cousin. And I remember I made $5,000 and I was so excited. And in that moment, I was like, what if I just sold her a product to make money? Like, what if I actually did that for my own reasons, like for my own selfish reasons? And I was so scared that I was doing the wrong thing and I was following the system that I knew I wasn't aligned with, just trying to sell people things. And I was like, no. Like that can't be true, because I know I got in this industry for a reason. I know I got in this industry to help people. And the thought of selling people stuff just for me to make money was like death to me. And I'm in that room, like my hands are shaking, the blood is rushing to my face, tears are like welting up in my eyes. And I'm just like, please don't look at me. I'm near the front. I'm like, please don't let anyone see. And I'm like sitting there nervous, like butterflies in my stomach. And finally, by the end of it, an hour or so later, I like ran out, no networking, didn't talk to anyone, got in my car and just burst into tears. And it was like that feeling that like, what am I doing? Like, should I be here?
Right.
And is this the right thing? And how can I do this? Because it was so out of alignment, the idea of that I could be hurting people when I got in the industry to help people. And as I'm driving home and like shaking and just trying to stay safe, I was thinking, well, then I think I have to quit. Like I can't stay in this industry. Like, and it wasn't just, I was focused first on the fact that I could be hurting people. And that was the worst and most emotional part. But then I started going in this downward spiral of like, I'm not good enough, because I'm like, he's right. Everything else was right that he said. I'm broke. I'm not making money. I was going further and further in debt. I didn't feel like I really knew how to grow people's money. Like, I thought the VUL was the best thing since sliced bread, which is what freaked me out, because I'm like, I'm selling VULs, like, universal life, variable universal life insurance. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, I got one view and this is what you sell and this is going to change people's lives. And I'm like, maybe it's not the only way.
Right.
So I was at this point where I'm like, well, I could either quit or I can find another way. And so I decided to, really invest in myself. And, I worked further with this coach, and I was like, it wasn't just the coach. It was like, I started doing like, law of attraction stuff. I started to meditate. I didn't stay meditating for very long, but it was like all these different things, take care of my body, take care of my mind, like get in the right and look at other strategies, and then started to develop my own strategies where I'm like adapting this from my coach, adapting this from a webinar, adapting this and finding ways to work with women. And it's not just sales, but it's how you attract the people and all these systems that I'm proud that I've created and brought to female financial advisors now. The number one thing is that it's aligned with who you are. It's like actually capitalizing on your ability to be, your natural ability to be nurturing and caring and want to help people. And most, like every woman who I talk to has a story when they say, why did you get in the industry? And well, I lost my husband and my advisor was amazing. And so he brought me in. I want to help more people women especially who lose or I just got goosebumps, or I got divorced. And like every woman has a story. They're only in the industry because they want to serve. They want to help people. And that's what kept me going. And that's what keeps me going today with this like mission and movement. Like we have to get more women in the industry because women especially need it.
Yes.
And we're not just underserved in the world as women with finance, but we're underserved in the industry itself. And it's just not moving. The needle is not moving. And I'm sick of it. Right, ladies?
Well, yeah.
Right?
You're singing our song here, and we're so glad to be connected because we saw all the same things. That's why Purse Strings was created, because women did not trust the industry. People were pushing product on them. They'd ask questions. They were told, don't worry about it. So not only do we give them, resources to learn, but we do look for those professionals just like you do who really are in it because they have compassion and passion and they have a reason. It comes from a heart-centered place and they really want to help people. We have a lot of women. We also have some men who come to it because they've had their own experience of, losing their dad, helping their mom, or seeing a sister that was kind of going through a divorce and really struggling. And they don't want to see their family members struggling like that either. They do come to it with a passion. So, that's who we look for. That's who we want our women to work with. Those people who come to this industry with a heart, because like you said, they need it. Everybody needs some type of financial assistance in some way or another, whether it just be your basic auto and homeowner policies, to get started. But so, we're really right there with you. And I think the numbers, It's Robyn, 17 to 20% of the industry today is women.
I thought it was 24, but I'm bad at research. So
yeah,
if it's worse than that, now I'm going to go cry more.
Well, it's way too low. But and the other thing is, like we talked about before, it's not just getting them in the industry, but keeping them in the industry. Because getting them in is one thing, because it's a great, great career to have.
We could sell the Kool-Aid to anyone. Got to keep drinking the Kool-Aid, though.
Yeah.
But,
selling the Kool-Aid, yeah.
But is it
true.
Staying in the industry? So there are some organizations that make it very difficult for women to feel successful and to do the work the way that they feel is very important to do the work, because not everybody will allow them to create their own processes like you have.
Yeah, and that is absolutely our focus. Because I've talked to some of the leaders in the industry or CEOs, whatever. It's hard to get their attention sometimes because they are focused on the recruiting, and I try to reframe them on that. I'm like, you're putting all this attention going to colleges, which is great. Like, let's get the word out. Let's get more women in the industry. But then, you're completely dropping the ball once they get there. And I mean, seriously, I won't say which company, but one of my clients said that her company, they just stopped doing women's events because they got basically complaints from some of the men said it's not inclusive. It's not all inclusive because the men are not incled in these women events. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah. I have another client who said she's the only woman in the office and she's like producing just as well as the other guys. And basically she went around the corner, and they're still going, I guess, and hanging out and doing happy hour. And they were all the boys, old boys club, hanging out at happy hour, and she wasn't invited. And she said they went on did a golfing thing and they didn't invite her. And she's like, and I play golf. Like, I personally don't play golf. So I would understand if they didn't want to invite me, but tennis, hopefully they didn't invite me. Golf, not so much, but it's like, this is happening all the time. It's like, there's this lack of inclusion. I can tell you story after story of partners, like I have a woman who bought into her company, an independent company. It was like $450,000 to get into this company, 2 male partners. Now she's the third female partner, paid as much as anyone else would have paid. Actually, perhaps maybe more, because they do that stuff to women all the time. Who knows? And then, years in, when she has 35 million in her management and has done her share, as far as salary, she was paid less than a third, way less than a third. And they were justifying, oh, well, he does this and he does that and he does that. And they're saying because of all those job descriptions he's getting, and they're getting more. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And she came into my FEM program. We got her to 110 million in 2 years. It was awesome. I mean, it was also market, but oh my gosh, market didn't do that well. But she got to 110 in 2 years. And then she walked, baby. She walked and she went to another firm where she was treated equitably. And it's like, story after story after story. It's like, it just kills me. And it's not like male bashing. It's not like I think men are bad. I love my husband. I love my son. And it's just the industry, it's the culture that's been created that's extremely old and archaic, that has not been updated. It's indoctrinated in this way of just pushing women out. And unless they're extremely male and they're acting like a man, basically, which nobody likes because then they're called a bitch, but act like a man, then maybe you can play the part, be tough, you're going to get knocked down, you jump back up, all this stuff. Don't be vulnerable. God forbid you cry. Don't have a baby. God forbid you leave for 9 months, and this sounds negative, but it's I've heard so many stories, and it's
true.
It's
really
crazy.
True.
Yeah. And so it's we've got to, and men as well, to support this mission, because they're going to get hurt badly. Like you told me the stats of how many, the transfer of wealth that's going to women. What do you say? 23 trillion or something? Well,
first of all, they're a $23 trillion underserved market today, and they're coming into the largest transference of wealth in history, over $30 trillion. More money is going to be in the hands of women than ever before. And I've been, pounding this message for years. And it's interesting that you say that, because I said to someone, why doesn't the industry care about these stats? 80% of women leave their financial professional if something happens to their spouse. They just take their money and leave. And people have said, oh yeah, that money walks out the door a lot because that happens. Why aren't they doing anything about it? Nothing's changed. I've yet to see one financial institution really step forward and make changes to support women and address women's needs and help women and work with them the way they want to be treated. I haven't seen it yet. One gentleman said to me, I just don't think we feel the pinch.
That's amazing.
Crazy, right?
I mean, there's stories.
And they don't.
There are stories through and through. And even like this other guy, the wife died and the financial professional said, or the husband died and the financial professional said, I usually don't work with this kind of family that has this amount of income, this lower income, but I'll do it for your husband. And I was like, so when, after the husband dying, where did all the money go? I mean, it's this process through and through to the customer, through their other employees as well, of like neglect and not having those relationships of value and goals and just a real relationship, bottom line, with like genuine care.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it drives me nuts. I mean, this is why, we're so passionate about doing this. And I think it's both sides. And I love what you guys are doing, because you're talking to the women and you're saying, hey, let me empower you financially and help you figure out what you need to know. And when you get a financial professional, and then we have the resource for the actual professionals. So I love that. And I think we also need the movement to be pushing for women to raise their hand and say, I only want to work with a woman. I want to work with a woman. There's, this is funny, but I have some pads, like for your period pads, and it's like made by women for women, and it's great marketing. And I can't even remember the name, unfortunately, but I can run and get it. But I was reading it sitting on the toilet and going like this is so awesome, because it's part of the movement of saying, hey, women, so it's not just about financial services. Obviously, this goes wider to every major industry, and maybe except for beauty and things like that. But it's like, we need and I'm not saying you have to work with a woman every time for everything, but it's like, if you could support women, and I don't do it all the time, because oftentimes it's like just more convenient, or someone, you get a referral, and but there's so many women out there who aren't even getting any help. And if you're going to say, I want to get help, why not have it be a woman to help you? Because they're going to do it for the right reasons. And just like you said earlier, Barbara, women are afraid that the advisor's pushing products. And that's exactly what happened. Telling my story, being at that wealth event, was like, that's exactly what he said, is that traditional advisors are pushing products. And that's why it killed me, because I knew I would never do that, at least not intentionally. If I was about to die, I just couldn't handle it. And women typically, obviously we're being general here, but don't do that, and it's not for their gain. It's to a fault. Yeah. Where I have this money type, it's called overgenerous Olivia. They're always giving for everyone else. And I'm like, that's great. But if you want to really contribute to the world, you have to put yourself first. Doesn't mean you push products, but put yourself first. Go grow your business, because they're working with everybody. And, I don't want to, say have a minimum. And I don't like to say minimums either, but it's we got to be specific. And this is a lot of the stuff that I teach, is who do we want to attract? Who is that one person? I call it clone your ideal client, because it's I want that executive, or I want that retiree, or then not even just retiree, but specifically who is that person who retired from an engineer firm or whatever. Right. I want that, be specific about who that is, and then have the right messaging to attract that person, because you shouldn't be working with everybody and sacrifice your business, or you're out of the business. And that's part of you leaving and getting a job or doing something else because you didn't survive. So we need you women to be particular and be committed to growing your business. It's just that you now know, we're telling you here, you can do it the woman's way. We call it the woman's way. You can do it in a way that's aligned with your values, in a way that's not about you just working 70, 80 hours a week, in a way that's really intentional, that it's in alignment, all these things. And that's why I'm proud of what we've created, because there just wasn't that space, and I'm sure there are other programs that have similar things, but I think that focus that we have, and there's a lot of mindset stuff, because, we have doubts. We're constantly second guessing ourselves. No matter, make millions of dollars and I still feel like a total fraud, it's how is that possible? But it happens, and I have a lot of confidence. And then there are days where I feel like the gum at the bottom of my shoe, no matter what, because
Yeah, I hear you. It's so interesting. But what do you think it's going to take for the industries now? Of course, we want women to work with female advisors, but to keep female advisors in this very male-dominated, this industry that was created by men for men, what's it going to take for the industry to turn around and really engage with what women want and need from their financial advisors?
Well, I do think part of it is that demand. I do think if women truly, the most successful women on the planet, if the 7-figure business owners, the executives, and it's leaders, like what it could be the executive of a nonprofit only making 100 grand a year, but it's like, or whatever, but it's not about money per se, although money does bring power, right? And has influence. It's about the demand. And that's where we're starting to put some attention, but we haven't been putting attention, because what I realized, like, my first philosophy was like, if I can help women be more successful in the industry, be more fulfilled, they'll stay in the industry, they'll make more money. If I can help them double, triple their revenue, like, they're never leaving. And then they're going to inspire other women. Like, a good example of that is one of my clients, Jessica Weaver. And she was like 30, like 29, 30, 28. I don't know. She was young, making 100 grand, working with her dad and her brother. Another whole story about inequity. But basically she learned to take control of what she wanted and do and get paid well. And then she ended up leaving. Now she's independent, completely independent of even her father and her brother. She has her own women's wealth boutique, and she's hiring women. And so, like, those type of things, I'll come back to that. But she, went from making 100 grand a year to then having $100,000 months. Right. And so when this happens, like, and we can have women like that. So I think it's twofold. So I used to think that's what had to happen. And if she can now stay in the industry, cool, we don't have the revolving door. But what I realized recently is, like, I think we really need both sides. We need the demand. We need, like, the executives coming in, or the most successful women on the planet who are leaders and have communities, and saying, like, we women need to stand for what we believe and say, I want to work with a woman. I want to be taken care of in this way, even if it's not a woman, but taken care of in this way. Not to be talked at and fact finded at, if I can make that word like that. And I want to I want someone to understand my values. I want them to understand what's important to me, and to support these women. I think the big companies are going to have to say, well, we need to find better solutions. So I think that's a huge part of it, is that if the demand's there, I do think that the bigger companies are going to start wanting to recruit more and wanting to have programs within their companies to support the women's success. So I do think that's huge. And then on the other side, which is my initial thing, was like, if I can get Jessica Weaver now to not just be successful herself, but do exactly what she's doing. And I didn't make her do this. It's just like, it's already in us, right? We want to support other women. Is that once she now, like, went independent, she's building a women's wealth boutique. She's building a firm with women. And now if we have, like, it might just have to be the independent channel, like the RIAs, like these women just saying, like, no, I'm not going to have. I just talked to a woman who was at, she was at Merrill Lynch, and then she was at other wirehouses, like, for years. And, like, finally now she's independent. Right. And she's like, she's not even making the money she wants to make, but, like, she's getting close, and she's so much happier because she's like, I have work-life balance. I get to go to my son's golf tournament. He's like professional or competitive golf player. I get to be at my daughter's middle school, stuff, whatever's happening there, and she's like, yeah, I want to grow my business, but I don't want to pound the pavement. I don't want to dial for dollars. I don't want to like, she's even afraid to say marketing, because what she thinks is marketing is hell, So we change this, and now she has an independent firm. And then if she starts to grow and brings more women on, so, like, it could, I think that's what it will take, is twofold, I guess it's threefold, right? It's like, we need the women in the industry to be successful and start, creating more women advisors and help kind of pay it forward. And then I think we need women in general to raise their hand and say, I want to work with a female advisor, especially the leaders. And then I think we need the big companies to start saying, this BS little women's group that we have that we do nothing with, and they meet twice a year, is not helping them grow their business in a way that's they feel aligned with. And we need to bring, women like us in, and we need to figure out new programs and new ways of doing things that are not outdated, that it's going to start to move. Like, it's going to start to move, but it's a lot. It takes a lot.
It's a lot.
It takes a village.
And it's a lot around leadership, like you say, at the top. Not just, talking out of both sides of their mouth, or saying, oh, I hear this a lot. Someone will go, we have this women's program. There's some education there. I don't know. And you might find it like 4 clicks down on a website somewhere. And I'm like, women are your market. They are not a niche market. They are your market. 51% of your market, you're leaving $23 trillion on the table. And I love your approach. What I hear you saying, Robyn, is you are the solution to someone's problem. You're not pushing product. You're helping women create a financially fearless lifestyle. And that's what we're saying too, in terms of come to the table, learn about where you are. What do you need? It doesn't matter if you're in debt, if you don't have big income. Start today, start now, and work with the right financial professional, because I want women to live a life where they can breathe and feel like they're living the life that they want, and they feel like their financial foundations are in order and they can save for a future and a great retirement. So I love that you're taking this approach of really working with women and getting them in a place in the industry that's comfortable for them, because we do need them to help women who are not in the industry really learn how to build their own financial journey and future. So it's just beautiful. And I'm right with you. I'm waiting for that financial organization to step forward and say, work with us, let's do this, because it's so needed. And I know your goal, you told me, was to get 50% of women, bump that number up from 17 or 24, let's get it up to 50%. Yeah. And I think what you've outlined is what it's going to take.
And I'm sure there's like a million other ways, a million other ideas, but like, this is why I feel so hopeless sometimes, hopeless, helpless, I guess both, and this is why I'm glad we're collaborating and talking and just putting this out there, because I think we really need to collectively come together, and it's not, going to be 1 or 3 or 10 of us. It's got to be, again, a movement. And I want to create that and be part of this movement that really rallies to make this happen, because I bet you, if we did those 3 things, there's probably 5 other or 3 more or 10 other things that we could do to keep making it happen. It's very easy for me to look at this mission and to be like, there's no way, like this ain't happening, and I remember, I think it was Sheryl Sandberg that I saw in a YouTube video talk about how, we'll never have in our lifetime equity, for women, as far as like, she was talking more about executives and that sort of thing. And I'm listening to it going like, what we could do it in one industry. Like we could, maybe not in every industry, like in our lifetime, but like, I don't want to give up on that. Like we could, but we do need, it's like our own lobbyists,
Yep.
We need to lobby for it. We need to really make it a necessity. And like you said, they're not feeling the pinch, right? There's no pain. And it's interesting that you say that. And we're talking a bit about sales with like what I was talking about with being aligned and finding the solution, is that the only thing that drives people to action, to do anything, is to avoid pain, right? And in the sales process that I teach, it's not because we want to put people in pain. They're already in pain. And so it's not like the pain, like, sometimes people teach sales and you're like, you got to get to the pain. It's not about that. It's like understanding, we call it FCC, frustrations, concerns, and challenges. So I always can remember, if I remember FCC, I want to understand, like, what's your biggest concern? Or what's your biggest frustration? Or what's your biggest challenge when it comes to growing your money? If I could understand what's really holding you back, then I can really determine whether or not I can serve you. And that's like thinking about one-on-one, and we're thinking of this as a movement. It's like, well, from the industry standpoint, if we can think of industry as a person almost, and we're thinking, well, where's the pain? And if we were to talk to the industry as a person and say, well, what's the biggest challenge to you not having women? It's like, it's not that painful, right? And if you have someone in a sales conversation and there's not much pain, or they're not associated to it, or they don't see it as really causing any trouble, like, well, there's so much money in this industry, we can still make money. It doesn't really matter. Like there's not enough pain. So if that's the case, then there's probably not going to be much action. There's not going to be a big gap. There's not going to be much of a movement. And, the people who are at the top, and this can go into many different conversations, which we won't go into, but like the people they always say the rich just keep getting richer. Right. And it's like the people and I don't necessarily think that's true or a bad thing or a good thing, or I don't know, but like, it's like the people at the top, if they're not hurting and they're getting what they want, then how do you shift that? And I think that's hard to answer at this stage. I think it's like anything else. Like if I was in a sales conversation with the industry, it's a really funny way to think about it. But if I was in the sales conversation in the industry, I would just keep digging deeper. I'd be like, I understand that. So yeah, we don't have that many women. So what's the challenge with that? Oh, well, like if they had to tell me, like, what's the challenge with that? Well, women overall aren't getting served. And what's the challenge with that? Well, if women overall aren't getting served, then it's affecting the next generation. And what's the challenge with that? Well, if it affects the next generation and then everybody sucks at money, then it's like, you know what I mean? If we keep digging deeper, then everyone would feel some pain, because we know if anyone cares about the next generation, anyone cares about like how we raise our kids, because we know what's coming. Like if the women in this country don't have empowerment with money, the likelihood is neither will their kids. And what's going to happen is, they're entitled, or they're not taking care of their money. And there's more, oh my gosh, with the amount of stress kids face and the amount of depression and mental illness. It's already happening.
And poverty.
And poverty. It's like, it's not that money or changing that money empowerment for women is going to solve everything, but it will make a difference. It will make a difference in the next generation in their lives. And I think number one stressor is usually money, right?
Well, and I go back to your story from the beginning around, you could have made a lot money doing that same process over and over, even though it didn't resonate with you and it didn't make you feel good. And I would say to the industry, does the way you're making money resonate with your integrity and who you are as an organization and what you stand for, which is totally dismissing the female market? If it is, then okay.
I think it's hard for people to be like conscientious about that. Like, I really think that had that guy not said that to me, because there's something called product knowledge, right? They come in and the wholesalers teach you product knowledge. And when I learned, I'm going to use that example for a reason, about variable universal life insurance, like I really thought it was the best thing ever. And like I sold people, looking back, like I sold that to people who I shouldn't have. And I definitely did not have the intention to hurt them in any way. I really thought it was the best thing for them. But what I didn't understand is the human part, where they're like, when things get bad, they stop saving, or they go spend money on other things. And we're like, oh no, overfund these policies. Like, it's going to be amazing. It's going to happen forever. And it's like, it wasn't the right thing. And right. I look back at that, and it's not because my intention was wrong. And I think, men and women alike, like I think, a lot of the men in the industry, and hopefully most of them, like, are not here to try to just take people's money. I don't think that's it. I really don't think that's the majority of the industry. I think even a lot, like most of the men are coming in, they want to succeed. I think that's a big thing. And you can succeed well in this industry. But I think I would really like to think that most of them are really in their hearts and they want to serve people. And it's not that they're trying not to. It's just, again, the way that the processes are set up, the way the systems are set up, the way that they're having these conversations overall, and who knows what individuals do, but overall, I think is set up in a way where I'm learning a product. I think it's the best thing. And my intention is good oftentimes, but it's not necessarily the best. And it's kind of like the same thing with, when you become a CFP, I became a CFP, and I'm like, now you have to, now, not before, but right. Now you have to disclose right. conflicts of interest.
Sure.
It's like, shouldn't we disclose that at the beginning? Like, shouldn't we understand the conflicts of interest before?
Anyway.
Like, oh, I didn't even know there was a conflict of interest here, but all I know is a wholesaler came in and taught me about a VUL. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go sell that, and made a decent amount of money doing that, thinking I was helping people. And maybe I wasn't, and that's what the consumer, the client, is afraid of, like that they're going to be sold a product or whatever. So it all goes back, it keeps going full circle, but there's just so many pockets of change. But we start with one. It's like, wasn't it Malala? Didn't she say, like, just start with one, like you start one person, if you can just impact one person, and it gets overwhelming when you want to create big change. Like, how do you do that? And even like you said, poverty, like that stuff hurts my brain and hurts my heart, because I don't feel like I can make a change. And the thing about this is, I do feel like I can make a change, even though it's one person at a time, or 5 people at a time, or even 5,000 sometimes at a time, where you can shift the mindset of the way, women in the industry think, and shift the way they do business that they're aligned with. Like, that's my part. And if we can do that more and spread this and move this together, then even if we push it from maybe whether it's 17 or 24 to 32, like progress equals success, baby. Yeah. And if we can have that progress, I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Amen. Well, that's a great way to sum up our conversation today. It's been so powerful. I think we could talk about this on and on and on, but I would say, Robyn, we are the change. Myself, Maggie, yourself, and the women and the men who support us and circle around us and are becoming part of our, communities. We are going to make changes because we've stepped out there on that skinny limb to do so, because it's our passion. And that's what we're all about. So thank you, Robyn, for coming on today. And what are some final thoughts you might have for us?
Can I give anyone who's listening, a freebie? Because we're talking a lot about it, and I'll give it to you as well. So I have something that's at the top of my mind, because we're actually gonna give this away a little bit, and I'll give it away here. It's called the Ideal Client Capture Cheat Sheet. And all this talk about, and the reason I think I brought it up is because I've been writing copy for like this, to give away this free cheat sheet. And it's just on my mind, like the story with my cousin Tracy, and like all these things that are coming up. And so this alignment with how you have this conversation really is, like I said, is so important. And this Ideal Client Capture Cheat Sheet is a way to capture ideal clients And I have a whole 7 steps. It's called the 7 pivotal steps to convert prospects into clients in the first meeting. So the intention behind it is to serve and to give them a valuable conversation. And anyone, not everybody's going to convert, of course, but the idea is that the people who move forward, it's not about chasing them. There's a logical next step, and it's a conversation where it truly is based on understanding what their concerns are, understanding what they want, seeing if there's a match. And if there is a match, you drive them to the next step, because just because you're being aligned with your values as a woman does not mean that you give everybody time to think about it and just get in their own way and never take action. I'm definitely not like that. I'm like, no, take action now. And no, I don't feel bad that you're investing your life savings in this program, because I know it's going to give you what you want and make you the money you need. Like, I don't feel bad about that. And you shouldn't, as an advisor, feel bad ever if someone finds money they don't have to work with you and buy a financial plan or anything like that, because you always will provide 10 times the value. So if you go to femalefinancialadvisors.com/CS, as in cheat sheet, we'll give that to you. You can download that. And there's a little video that kind of shows you how it works. And if you go through that, or, even just download it and you want to jump on a call with someone on my team, then we can help you and really get your business moving in the right direction, because the only way I can do it is maybe one person at a time to help you to grow your business. So I'd love to give that away.
Great. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. So thank you for that. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of traction out of that. So any last parting words, Maggie?
No, I think this was a great conversation. Thank you again, Robyn, for coming on today. And any other listeners out there, please rate, review, subscribe, because that helps us grow as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, ladies, help a girl out, right? Support women. Support women-owned businesses. Like and share our podcast so that we can talk to women about the shit we just typically don't talk about. Thanks again, Robyn. So long, everyone.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.